Okay, so uh, I think a lot of you completed quite a few problems, so there's not shouldn't be much left to do. So I'll do the whole sheet. Um, you don't have to take all these steps, but again, if I do think it helps rewriting, so the common terms are next to each other. So this one actually, this shouldn't be a plus and a minus. Should have just said a minus. So it's minus 90. Let's combine like terms. Remember, there's a 1 in front of that c, so that's really negative 4 minus 1, and that gives you negative 5c. And then negative 3d minus 9d is just negative 12d. Okay. This and this, negative 7m minus 2m, and then the n's, negative 5n minus n plus 3p. Again, negative 7 and negative 2, right? We can ignore the variable and just focus on the coefficient. So that's negative 9. And then this, negative 5 minus n is negative 5 minus 1, which is negative 6n, and then plus 3p. Negative 4x squared, combine like terms. It's this one with this fellow over here, negative 9x squared. We circled the term with the sign preceding it, so don't forget that. So that's not only, don't circle 5x, circle plus 5x, right? Likewise with minus x, and then minus 17 plus 19. So over here we get negative 13x squared. Remember, we're adding, so don't multiply. We're not adding the variable. We're not adding the exponents on the variable, so be careful there. 5x minus x is plus 4x, and then that's positive 12. Negative 7 plus 19 is just positive 12. That's negative 2a. Sorry, not doing in terms of exponent. Do that first. So we get negative 2ab cubed plus 12ab cubed, and then we'll do the squares. So we got these two here, minus 2a squared plus 5a squared plus a. So that a, there's no other like terms with a, so we don't have to worry about that. So I can even just go ahead and write that. So focus on these. That's going to be 10ab cubed, right? Negative 2 plus 12 is 10. And then negative 2 plus 5 is positive 3. And then don't forget your variables. The next two are kind of interesting, right? Because we don't have factor per se clearly written outside the parentheses. So we talked about this yesterday. So if you remember, when we have a minus sign in front of parentheses, it's almost like there's a 1 here. So think about what happens when we multiply that negative 1 times every term inside. Well, first of all, we're multiplying by 1. So we know that's going to come, it's going to be 5a and 7. So the only thing that will change is the status of their sign, whether it's going to be positive, negative. So when it's negative, so when we're multiplying by negative 1 and positive 5a, it's going to be negative 5a. And negative 1 and negative 7 gives you positive. Notice that they came out opposite, right? It was positive and negative, and now it's negative and positive. So when we multiply by a negative, the signs change, right? And becomes positive. So now I can combine like terms. These two are like terms, so this becomes negative 8a and then plus 7. Same thing here. Before I combine like terms, I have to remove the parentheses. So one way of and one way we can think about it is how to do the distributive property here, right? Oops. And by doing the distributive property, it allows me to remove the parentheses. In this case, we have a 1, which is positive. And when it's positive and you multiply everybody by a positive 1, it literally just is the same thing as they were inside the parentheses. They come out looking exactly the same. 1 times negative 9 is negative 9, and 1 times negative 5 is negative 5. So as you notice, exactly the same. So the shortcut is knowing that if it's a positive 1 that we're multiplying, everybody stays the same. If it was a negative 1, like the previous problem, everybody comes out with opposite signs. So plus y, we can combine negative 9y plus y, right? And then minus 5 just hangs out in the back. Negative 9y plus 1y is negative 8y. and that's the solution. Again, so look at this one. We have a negative sign here, right, outside the parentheses. So all we got to do is I can literally just go like this, right? Because if I pretend there's a 1 over here and I multiply -1 times this, it becomes positive. And if I multiply -1 times that, that becomes negative. Likewise here, that plus sign indicates that there's an invisible 1 here. And again, when we multiply by +1, and I multiply by that, it still remains the same, -3b cubed. And if I multiply that +1 times the a, it's just +a. So notice that everybody came out of the parentheses with exactly the same signs as they were inside the parentheses. Okay. Combine like terms, yeah, we can combine this guy over here, and this guy here. Let me put the like terms together. And then minus 9a plus a over there. Final answer, we get -b cubed. If you want to write a 1 here, you can. It's just ugly, so you don't need it. It's redundant. So -2 minus 3 is -1, or just -b cubed, and -a plus a, or 1a, is -8a. Okay, so that's the pretty answer. Likewise here, so it's a minus sign outside the parentheses, so I know it's going to come out -4c. The minus 2m is going to be plus 2m. Likewise, same thing here. There's a minus sign right outside the parentheses, so it's going to come out positive 5k, and the -8m comes out as positive 8m. Like terms, are there any like terms? Yes, this one. So -4c combines with no one. The 5k combined with no one. Notice I'm putting this alphabetically, and the 2m and 8m combines and gives me 10m. All right, so as you can tell, it's just, at the end of the day, we're still adding and subtracting. That's basically it. And we just got to be careful with the signs, and we have to be careful with if they're like terms or not. So this is the extra thing they're doing. -12d plus 3c plus 5d. Remember, okay, again, negative and negatives are positive, negative and negatives are positive, and then plus 2c. Like terms, the 3c and the 2c. 2c plus 3c, and then -12d and -12d plus 5d. We can combine those. 2c and 3c is positive, so 5c. -12d and 5d is -7d. I think we did this problem. No, why? Well, now this one requires a little. Now we also got to multiply and add the exponents if the two factors we're multiplying are the same, right? So in this case, a times a is, first of all, taking care of the sign. So positive a times negative a is negative. A times a is a to the second power. Remember, there's a hidden 1 here and a hidden 1. So we add the exponents. A times negative b, negative b is just negative, first of all, negative 8b. I'll change colors. This is negative a times negative a. Negative times a negative is positive, so we get a squared. Negative a times negative b is positive, ab. And for last, negative a times a is negative a squared. And then negative a times b is negative ab. Combine like terms, well, there's this guy and this guy and this guy. So notice that negative a squared and a squared here, they're opposites, so that goes away. So I'm left with just that. Negative ab and plus AB also are opposites, so that goes away. So I only left with that. Final answer. So, we see braces here. Okay, so 7m plus, I think these are called braces or they're brackets. Anyways, -2m minus, so there's an invisible 1 over here. So then -1 times -5 is positive 5. So we're going to remove those parentheses, and -1 times 2 is positive 2. I can combine what's inside these brackets. Notice that Mr. Cho doesn't know if they're brackets or braces. So -2m, can I combine that with anyone? No, so it's, I have to, again, and I have to, they behave like parentheses. This, let me put it in blue, right? So imagine, again, there's a invisible 1 right outside there, and then we're going to do the distributive property to allows us to remove these braces / brackets. So +1 times -2 is -2m. positive 1 times 5w is just 5w, and 1 times 2 is just positive 2. So they came out exactly as they were inside, because that was outside was 1. Now I can combine. And combine these two, and look at that, they're next to each other, so I'll get 5m plus 5w, and our constant 2. So, first thing we take care of is this. There's a 1 here, right? That's the first thing you're going to do. So everything else is going to stay the same. 3y squared minus, let's call these braces, minus 5y plus the brackets, 2y squared. And then let's multiply negative 1 times negative 4y, plus 4y, plus 3, close. The branches are removed, and then I can put the minus 7 attached to that and that. Now the next thing we have to remove is these brackets here, right? Put it in red. And lucky for us, there's an invisible 1 here. So when we move the brackets, everybody inside the bracket stays the same. So negative 3y squared minus braces negative 5y plus 2y squared plus 4y plus 3 minus 7. So we remove the second grouping. The last grouping, and again, there's, if you want to think about it, there's a 1 outside that. So before we move those braces, okay, so I'm going to focus here, guys. If I remove these braces, because that's a minus, right, everybody is going to come out the opposite. So imagine if there's a 1 over here. If I multiply negative 1 times negative 5, let me write this down. Negative 3y squared. Negative 1 times negative 5 is positive 5y. Negative 1 times positive 2y is negative. So notice that they're coming opposite. So that 4y plus 4y is going to be minus 3y. That plus 3 is going to be minus 3. And I should have combined the 3 and the 7, but I didn't. It's okay. Combine like terms. I'm going to have to erase this over here. So if I combine like terms, there's the y squareds. So I have negative 3y, negative 2y squared, so that gives me negative 5y squared. Y's, I have plus 5y and minus 3y, so that gives me plus 2y. And negative 3 plus 4 plus 7 is plus 1. Okay. Well, it's been a while since I do something like that. So, a little bit more. Series property. That gives you negative 6h plus 8 minus h. We can combine the h's. 6h minus h plus 8 is just going to give me negative 7h plus 8. Series property, 6y, and then these two, vw, x, y, z. So 30y, and then minus 6y and negative and minus 2x is going to be 12xy. Alphabetically, x comes first. And then the second part, we have to do the security property again. Y times x is minus xy, right? Just write it alphabetically. And then negative y times negative 4 is positive, and it's going to write 4y. Combine like terms, yeah. This guy and this one, they're exactly the same. So 30y plus 4y, 34y. And these two are the same, right? They're both xy's raised to the same exponent. So negative 12 minus xy is just negative 13. Don't forget there's a 1 there. Okay. All right. Next one. 6y cubed minus 10y fifth. Remember, we're adding the exponents. Minus 15y cubed, and then this one is negative 3y squared, and then minus 2y to the 5th power. Like terms, this fell over here. This fell over here, it's negative 10 and then negative 2, so I'll write it out. Negative y5 minus 2y5. And then the cubes, plus 6y cubed, minus 15y cubed, and lastly, negative 3y squared, which it's not going to do nothing, so I'll just write ahead. Negative 10 and negative 2, right here, is negative 12y fifth. This one is 6 minus 15, which is negative 9y cubed. That's my answer. 2c squared plus 8cw, right, alphabetically. And then this is going to be a negative 15 ABC. And lastly, negative times negative is a positive, so we get 3BCW. The good thing about this problem is there are no like terms, so we don't have to combine anything, and we're done. That's the answer. Let's see. So negative is a sign first, so it's a negative. 3 times 4 is 12. No a's. There's b, so b to the 4th power, c to the 3rd. That's this. The second one, again, this is positive. 3 times 2 is 6. A and a3 becomes a4. No b, so it's just b squared and c cubed. Third one, positive, and it's going to be 3a squared b cubed c squared. And the last one is going to be, again, positive, and then 3a squared b cubed c cubed. Yikes. Anything to combine? A squared 3, no. Well, everything is different. They're not like terms at all. Good, so that's the answer. On the right, negatives and negatives are positive, so that gives me 3b squared. Negative negatives are positive again, and 3 times 4 is 12, b to the 4th. No, I don't have to add anything. 5a is going to do nothing, just hangs out for a little bit. Let's do this. Let's remove the parentheses. Negative 4 and negative a is positive 4a. Negative 4 and negative 7a is positive 28a. Combine like terms? Yeah, this guy and this guy. They're both positive, so it makes life a little bit easier, and that's just 33. Oops, sorry. I take that back. They're all a's. They're all a's. So it's 9a plus 28a, so that gives me a total of 37a. All right. K. That's negative 3k squared. Positive times negative and negative, and k times k is k squared. Minus 4k squared, minus 10k. Combine like terms, yeah, the first three are all alike, but the minus 10k is different. So it's negative 3, there's an invisible 1, so it's negative 3, minus 1, minus 4. So ignore the variables for the second. So negative 3 and negative 1 is negative 4, negative 4, negative 4, and negative 8. That's my final answer. Okay. 14w to the 5th. Positive times a positive. Positive times a negative is negative 14. And then minus 14w fifth. Well, combine like terms, yeah. This guy and this guy are like terms, but they're opposite, so that becomes 0. So I have negative 14 left over. Positive times a negative is a negative, and that's negative 3cm alphabetically. The second one is a positive times a negative, which is a negative again. 3 times 3 is 9. M times m to the 5th is m6. Positive times a positive is a positive. 3 times 6 is 18, and then mw. And the minus 30mw. Combine like terms. Not this guy. This guy I'm going to put way in the front. Negative 9m to the 6. And then this guy, minus 3cm, is not combining with anybody, right? And then these two I can combine. They're both MWs. So that's going to give me negative 12 MW, right? Because 18 minus 30 is negative 12. And that's that. The last question is a little bit different. Can I scroll down? Okay. Oh, I can. And express the area of the outer rectangle pictured on the right. So if you look at the outer rectangle, the big one, okay? Area is length times width, right? Base times height. So to find the area of this rectangle, we're going to multiply for the area. So let me do that at the bottom. Actually, I'm going to do it in there. The area is this side, right? 6b. times 4b plus 2. Sorry, I'll do it with this more. So if you think about area, let's go base times height, right? So base times height. So doesn't matter. The base here is 4b plus 2. But the base is 4b plus 2. And I have to multiply times the height, which is 6b. Now, if I write it like this, okay, what we're going to end up getting is that 6b is only multiplying 4b, which is not what we want. We want this to multiply that. That represents the side of the rectangle, 4b plus 2. So we need to put that in parentheses. Okay? Because otherwise we only multiply one of the terms, right? 4b, and we're not multiplying by 2. We're not multiplying the 2. So we have to add the sum of 4b plus 2. And the only way to do that is to put it in parentheses. So now we can do, what do you call it? The distributive property, 6b times 4b is 24b squared. And then 6b times 2 is positive, by the way. 6b times 2, 12b. Okay, so the main thing here is that the base had to be represented. You had to put in parentheses. Okay, you have to put in parentheses. So that's the big rectangle. Now the small rectangle, I'll do a small, let me change colors. The small rectangle, the height is represented by 3b, and this is represented by 2b minus 1. So again, let's find the area of the small rectangle. And the area of the small rectangle is the product of those two sides, right? So I multiply one side times the other. So again, 3b times the other side. In this case, the other side is represented by the expression 2b minus 1, which we have to put in parentheses. Okay. Now, I'm going to have to do the distributive property. 3b times 2b is 6b. And 3b minus 1 is minus 3b. Sorry, 3b times 2b is 6b squared, and then 3b minus 1 is 3b. So the area of the yellow rectangle is represented by this expression. So now imagine, imagine a sheet of paper, okay? Here's a blank sheet of paper horizontally, and I ask you to cut the center out, right? Or ask you to cut the yellow part out, right? So you get a scissor, and you cut this, cut that, and there's a hole in the middle now, right? Because you cut it out. So you're left with this, right? That's what you're left, all right? Because the middle part, somebody took it out and used it. So how much is left over? Well, I know that the entire area is represented by this. So from that entire area, I have to remove this part right here, right? The second rectangle. So it's one rectangle minus the other rectangle. And this is where there's going to be a lot of mistakes. Now, the area of the first rectangle is this, guys. Right? That's the area of the whole rectangle. The whole sheet of paper is represented by this. Not 24b squared, not 12b, but the sum of 24b squared plus 12b. From that, we're going to subtract what? If I write, and we're going to subtract the second rectangle. The second rectangle is, and I'm going to put it in red, is 6b squared minus 3b. Now, if you write it like this, it's incorrect. Okay, because the area of the second rectangle is not 6b squared. So here, that subtraction is only affecting the cb squared here. Right? So from the main area, from the main rectangle, from the area of the big rectangle, we want to subtract this difference, right? This. We want to subtract this guy here, because that represents the area of the second rectangle. And that's why you have to put it in parentheses. Now that my expression is set up, right, I can go and see if I can subtract or if there are any common terms. But I need to put the expression first. And an important thing here was to put that in parentheses, okay? Because otherwise, we're not really subtracting the small rectangle in its entirety. You're only subtracting cb squared. If you don't put parentheses, you're subtracting the big rectangle minus this guy only. Okay, so let's put parentheses. That's our expression. So here's the big rectangle, and from that I'm going to subtract the small rectangle. Okay, now we go through the whole process again of removing the parentheses. So in this case, there's a positive 1 here, so everything stays the same. So that's just 24b squared plus 12b. But in this case here, Notice that that minus sign affects those two terms, so it comes out as minus 6b squared, right? The 6b squared becomes negative, and then negative times a negative becomes plus 3b. If you didn't put the parentheses in there, if you didn't put these parentheses there, it would only be minus 6b squared, right? And then you would have minus 3b, which is not what you wanted because it's really plus 3b. So that parentheses was really important. Combine like terms? Yeah, we can combine some. We got this guy over here, 24b squared. And this guy over here, the like terms, minus 6b squared. And then we have plus 12b. And then plus 3b. So, forgot the b. No, the rest is easy. 24 minus 6 is 18. B squared. And 12b plus 3b is just 15b. That's my final answer. So the area that I have left over after somebody cut up the rectangular area from my sheet of paper is 18b squared plus 15b. Okay.